Ever wondered what it's like to go from Mafia Kingpin to legitimate top earner? It's a journey that defies belief. One day you're orchestrating multi-million-dollar schemes and dodging bullets. The next, you're giving TED Talks and closing deals in boardrooms. It's a transformation that seems impossible, yet here I am, living proof that it can be done. My story is one of radical change. I've swapped concrete shoes for Italian leather loafers and prison cells for penthouse suites. But make no mistake, this isn't a tale of overnight success. It's a grueling odyssey of self-reflection, hard work, and relentless perseverance. The skills that made me a formidable force in organized crime became the foundation for my legitimate empire. Who knew that the art of persuasion and strategic thinking honed in the mob would translate so well to the corporate world? I faced skepticism, threats, and temptation at every turn. Former associates wanted me back in the game. Law enforcement watched my every move, waiting for me to slip up, but I was determined to prove them all wrong. Let me introduce myself. I'm Michael Franzese, once known as the Yuppy Dawn, and a rising star in New York's Colombo crime family. In my heyday, I was pulling in millions a week through various rackets and schemes. I had it all: money, power, respect. But I also had a target on my back and a conscience that was slowly eating away at me. My life was a ticking time bomb, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything exploded. Born into the mob life, I was groomed from a young age to follow in my father's footsteps. John Sonny Franzese was a notorious underboss in the Colombo family. By my mid-20s, I was already a capo regime, running my own crew and masterminding some of the most lucrative schemes in mob history. The gasoline tax fraud alone was netting us billions. But beneath the veneer of success, I was living a life of constant paranoia and moral conflict. Every day was a balancing act between maintaining my status in the mob and grappling with the consequences of my actions. I saw friends murdered, families torn apart, and lives ruined. The glamour of the mafia lifestyle quickly faded, replaced by the harsh reality of a world built on violence and betrayal. Leaving the mafia isn't like quitting a regular job. There's no 2-week notice, no exit interview, no farewell party. It's a decision that puts your life on the line. The moment I chose to walk away, I became a marked man. Former allies turned into enemies overnight. The very people I once called family now saw me as a potential threat. Every shadow held danger. Every phone call could be a setup. The paranoia that comes with leaving the mob is all-consuming. But the physical threats were just the tip of the iceberg. The psychological toll of breaking free from a criminal lifestyle is immense. Everything I knew, every instinct I had developed over years in the mob suddenly became a liability. The skills that had kept me alive and thriving in the underworld were now obstacles I had to overcome. I had to unlearn decades of ingrained behaviors and attitudes. It was like trying to reprogram my entire being. When you leave the mob, you don't just lose your job. You lose your entire support system. My assets were frozen or seized. My contacts were useless in the legitimate world. I had to start from scratch, with a criminal record hanging over my head like a dark cloud. Finding employment was nearly impossible. Transitioning from the criminal world to legitimate business required a complete overhaul of my mindset. In the mob, success often came through intimidation and force. In the legal world, it's about building relationships and playing by the rules. I had to rewire my brain, replacing old habits with new, positive ones. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for survival and success. Instead of hiding my past, I chose to own it. My journey from mob boss to legitimate businessman was a compelling story. I began speaking at events, sharing my experiences and lessons learned. Another crucial strategy was continuous learning. This commitment to learning helped me acquire new skills and build trust. Section 5. The turning point, a moment of clarity. Every journey has a defining moment, a point of no return that sets the course for everything that follows. For me, that moment came in the most unlikely of places, a prison cell. I was serving time for racketeering, facing the prospect of spending the best years of my life behind bars. It was there, surrounded by concrete walls and iron bars, that I had my epiphany. I realized that the life I had been living was a dead end, both literally and figuratively. One night, as I lay on my bunk staring at the ceiling, the full weight of my choices came crashing down on me. I thought about my family, my children, and the legacy I was leaving behind. Was this what I wanted to be remembered for? A life of crime, violence, and betrayal? The answer was a resounding no. In that moment, I made a decision that would change the course of my life forever. I decided to walk away from the mob, no matter the cost. But making the decision was just the first step. The real challenge lay in following through. Section 6. Building a new empire, legal business ventures. With my decision to leave the criminal world behind me, I faced the daunting task of building a new life from scratch. The skills I had honed in the mob, leadership, strategy, negotiation, were valuable, but I needed to learn how to apply them in a legal context. My first ventures were modest. I started with small consulting gigs, leveraging my unique experiences to offer insights on fraud prevention and business security. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and that meant everything to me. As I gained more experience and credibility in the legitimate business world, I began to expand my horizons. I saw opportunities in industries I never would have considered in my previous life. Technology, real estate, entertainment. These became the new territories I sought to conquer. But unlike my days in the mob, I was now building value, not extracting it. I focused on creating businesses that solved real problems and improved people's lives. One of my most successful ventures was in the field of motivational speaking and business coaching. I realized that my journey from crime to legitimacy was not just a personal transformation, but a valuable lesson for others. I began speaking at corporate events, universities, and even law enforcement conferences. Section 7. Overcoming stigma, gaining trust in the corporate world. Entering the corporate world with a criminal past is like trying to sell ice to Eskimos. It's an uphill battle from the start. The stigma of being an ex-mob boss followed me like a shadow, coloring every interaction and negotiation. In boardrooms and business meetings, I could feel the skepticism and distrust radiating from potential partners and clients. Their eyes would narrow, their posture would stiffen, and I knew they were wondering if they could trust the reformed gangster. Overcoming this stigma required a multifaceted approach. First and foremost, I had to be transparent about my past. There was no use in trying to hide it. My story was public knowledge. Instead, I chose to address it head-on. In meetings, I would often be the first to bring up my criminal history, framing it as a valuable learning experience that had shaped my current business ethics. This proactive approach often disarmed people, turning their skepticism into curiosity. Consistency became my mantra. I understood that trust is not built overnight, especially for someone with my background. So I focused on being reliable, punctual, and delivering on every promise, no matter how small. Section 8. The power of redemption. Embracing second chances. Redemption is not a destination, but a journey. It's a path I've been walking since the day I decided to leave my criminal life behind. At first, the concept of redemption seemed almost laughable. How could someone with my history ever hope to be redeemed? But as I delved deeper into my new life, I began to understand that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it and using those lessons to create a better future. The power of redemption lies in its ability to transform not just an individual, but those around them. As I shared my story and the lessons I'd learned, I saw how it impacted others. Ex-offenders found hope in my journey, seeing that it was possible to turn their lives around. Business leaders gained new perspectives on second chances and the value of diverse experiences. Even law enforcement officials began to see the potential for rehabilitation in those they once considered irredeemable. Embracing redemption meant accepting responsibility for my past actions, while also refusing to be defined by them. Section 9. Lessons learned from the streets to the boardroom. The transition from the criminal underworld to legitimate business taught me invaluable lessons that have shaped my approach to entrepreneurship and life. One of the most crucial lessons was the importance of emotional intelligence. In the mob, emotions often led to rash decisions and violent outcomes. In the business world, I learned to harness and channel emotions productively. Understanding and managing not just my own emotions, but those of others, became a key factor in my success. Another vital lesson was the power of networking, but with a twist.